Hello again. We're going to start. This is part 2 of my lecture video series on Chapter 6, working with the Virtual Machine Manager. The Virtual Machine Manager is the VMM that's essentially a shorthand for the Microsoft System Center Virtual Machine Manager. Of course, we're dealing with the 2016 version. No doubt there's a 2019 version that's optimized to support Windows 2019. What it is, like vCenter Server in a VMware ecosystem, it's a tool for centralized management of your virtual machines and the virtualization resources that support them. Not just the VMs, but the hosts and storage and all of it. Now, there are 3 main components of the VMM. One of these is the Virtual Machine Management Server. The other is the VMM Console. And the third is the VMM Local Agent. The VMM Management Server controls the core functions. It controls the VMM database service, the VMM service, the database server. The database server essentially, this is why you need SQL Server 2014 or whatever version you need for what you're installing. Because a lot of the configuration that the System Center is managing is stored in that database. VMM also controls your library server. Your library is a list of your resources, both hosts and also templates and storage locations, etc., etc. Your VMM console, so the management server controls these core functions. The VMM console is how you control the management server. Managing, creating, deploying VMs, managing your host and library servers, working with your configuration settings. We'll delve into more of that, into all of that in more detail in coming videos. Then you've got the local agent. The local agent is the piece of software on each computer which allows the VMM server to control the local machine. So you control the server with the console. The server controls the local hosts with the local agent. Now, this is one of the reasons we need Active Directory, because as you add new hosts to the Active Directory domain, it's going to push the VMM local agent down to all those machines. Now, this will support Windows 8 or any newer OS, Windows 8, 8.1, all the various flavors of 10. That also means it supports Windows Server. Windows 20 Server 2012 is effectively the server side of Windows 8. It will also support any computer running Hyper-V or VMware ESXi. So you could actually manage ESXi hosts with your Microsoft System Center if you had a mixed environment like that. It will probably work better in the long run, really, to have one or the other. If you're going to go with VMware, just do VMware. ESXi hosts, vCenter, the vCenter server appliance, vMotion, vStorage, etc. Storage vMotion, rather. Or, on the other hand, if you're going to go the Redmond route, the Microsoft route, make sure you just have Windows. So, in terms of software and hardware requirements, if there's a missing component, the installation will not finish. The setup program will tell you what you need to know. There are some certain things you need. You need either a standard or desktop data center version of Server 2016. Server 2012 will not do it. You do need both the 3.5 and the 4.6 .NET framework. The good news about getting the 3.5 framework on a Windows server is you can just add it as a feature, whether you're adding it to Hyper-V or whenever. Just turn it on. You will need SQL Server 2012 or 2014. The latest version available in Microsoft is 2014 Service Pack 3. Your text indicates Service Pack 2, but I don't believe that will make much of a difference. You will also need the Windows 10 Assessment and Deployment Kit for Win 10. You don't need anything else, but this will allow you to support most modern operating systems. Really and truly, you shouldn't be deploying Windows 8 or Windows 8.1. You might actually have trouble obtaining those ISOs legally. But even if you have them, you really do need to move on up to 10. If you've got a system which can't reasonably support 10, what you should really do is decommission that system. Because in the future, if it's not good enough for Windows 10 right now, it will not be good enough for Windows 10 2 or 3 years from now, much less whatever comes after Windows 10. So in terms of our software, hardware requirements, I've mentioned some of these in the demo videos. For your server, you need at least 4 gigs of RAM. 16 would be better. You need at least 4 gigs of RAM at a minimum just to install the thing. Honestly, if you only have a few gigs of space free on your server, buy another hard drive. If it's a VM, add another VHD. If it's a physical drive, if you're talking about a rack mount server or a blade server, the chances are you've got not just one but several empty slots. Go buy a terabyte hard drive, throw it in there, add it in, go for it. For the console itself, you'll need the server will need 8 cores. Now this is physical hardware. Understand? If you're doing this virtually, you may not be able to provide it with 8 cores. I don't believe I have 8 cores on this Core i7 platform I've got in front of me, but I'm going to try to make it work. Anyway, so you need, as you can see from these 8 to 16 core options between your server, your console, your database, your library, and these relatively high, actually not relatively high, relatively reasonable, honestly, clock speed ratings. You need a reasonably modern system. If you're doing this on your own hardware, virtualized, what I suggest you do is you go with the 8 gigs. If you're physically doing this, that recommended RAM, that is a minimum. If you're doing all of this, what I would suggest you do, say, the same system is the server and the console and the library and the DB. Say you've got one server. What I would actually do is add all this stuff up, and that adds to about 40. That adds up to about 40 gigs of RAM right there. And if you've got, frankly, throw as much hard drive space as you can at the problem. 50 gigs at a bare minimum, if you can. Throw multiple terabytes at the problem. And now, particularly as far as your library server and your database servers are concerned, the more the better, because this system is going to be supporting multiple VM templates, multiple running VMs. So the standard rule applies: as much hardware as you can reasonably afford, as many processors as you can afford, the best processors the board will support, as much RAM as you can afford, etc., etc. So next we'll talk about installing Active Directory and VMM and SQL and the ADK. I've actually done videos about most of those things already. Thanks, and I'll be right back.